o'clock, marking the start of the funeral service. The Queen will be carried past the grave of the unknown warrior and down the nave of the Abbey. Following, as they pass under the ornate gilded entrance to the choir, will be the Archbishop of Canterbury and other senior clergy. And then the coffin, followed by the King and senior members of the royal family, will be taken to the very heart of the Abbey, the lantern, and placed in front of the high altar. Members of the royal family will be seated alongside. Behind them, in the south transept, heads of state, leaders and royalty from around the world. Sitting opposite, holders of the Victoria and George Cross, their counterparts from the Commonwealth and members of the nation's highest order of chivalry. While the Prime Minister, former Prime Ministers and the leaders of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland will sit in the Abbey's choir stalls. The Dean of Westminster will lead the service. Lessons will be read by the Prime Minister and the Secretary-General of the Commonwealth. The sermon will be given by the Archbishop of Canterbury. At the end of the service, the last post will be sounded from the Gothic splendour of the Lady Chapel, resting place of kings and queens, including Elizabeth I, going back 700 years. A 2-minute silence will be observed throughout the United Kingdom before the reveille is sounded by trumpeters of the Household Cavalry, and in the Abbey the national anthem is sung. The final act in the service will be a procession of the Queen's coffin back through the choir and along the nave, out of the Abbey and back onto the state gun carriage before it's taken to Windsor and her final resting place.
And just to remind you that we do have special coverage of the state funeral of Queen Elizabeth II at Westminster Abbey, as well as all the events of the day from 9 a.m. tomorrow morning here on Sky News. Well, time now for a special documentary. Jonathan Samuels has been travelling up and down the country, talking to people who are mourning the passing of the Queen and meeting their new king for the first time. So here is his documentary, The Queen's Death, A Kingdom Says Goodbye.
Yesterday was a day that we all knew would come sometime, but in our hearts of hearts, we hoped never would.
Queen Elizabeth II was the rock on which modern Britain was built.
For the vast majority of us, it feels impossible to imagine a Britain without her.
Millions of us are trying to understand why we are feeling this deep and personal and almost familial sense of loss.
The British people are preparing to bid a final farewell to Queen Elizabeth II. The country's longest-serving sovereign and a single common reference point for all of us, and to some, the person that most bound our sense of national identity. It's been more than 70 years since Britain has seen anything like this. A country saying goodbye to one monarch while also meeting the next.
Queen Elizabeth was a life well lived, a promise with destiny kept, and she is mourned most deeply in her passing. That promise of lifelong service I renew to you all today.
As her coffin makes its last long journey to London, the new king makes his first visits as monarch to his new kingdom. I'm following him to all four corners of the UK as he prepares to bury his mother. The Queen was often described as a figure of stability and comfort in uncertain times. But will I find a country which can find that same reassurance in him?
was incredibly dignified. Amazing to see so many thousands of people all go completely silent as the procession went past.
She's one of the icons of the country, and she's Scottish. Do you know what I mean? I think Queen of Scots, that's what she gets called, doesn't she? Balmoral, our second home.
Do you think King Charles can maintain that level of affection?
I don't think so. I don't think he'll have. Well, he's not going to have the reign that she did. He's maybe got 20 years at most, I would imagine. I don't think he'll get the same love and admiration as she did.
What's she done for Scotland? What do Scottish people think of the Queen?
I think it's probably mixed, but from my perspective, I think she encourages unity. She doesn't make any difference irrelevant of your creed, your religion, your beliefs.
Do you think Charles can do that to the same degree, to the same level of success?
I'm not so sure that I would have believed that beforehand, but I think the way in which he's portrayed himself, certainly in the last week, he's went up really high in my estimations, and I'm behind the King, definitely.
Do you think the new king will be as popular a monarch as his mother?
No, not as popular. He may be popular. I'm sure he will try to follow in her footsteps, but these are very, very big shoes to follow. No, I don't think so. I have to say that there's a checkered history there for Charles and Camilla, but I wish him well. But to follow his mother is a very hard act.
Royal roots here in Scotland run deep and often alongside strong nationalist sentiment. There is a sense that the Queen was almost the glue that held all the devolved nations together, gave us all a shared sense of Britishness, perhaps. Will that now change under King Charles?
Well, I think we have to think about the continuity of monarchy, and it's that always having a monarch that is that beacon of stability. Politics, by its very nature, is short-lived, but we take reassurance that we will always have a monarch. But the demise of this monarch is clearly a big moment in history, and one that will take quite a lot of adjusting for many, many people till they feel settled. We've had so much change. In a week we saw a new Prime Minister and a new Head of State. That's just extraordinary and unheard of. And people are reeling from all the challenges they're facing in their daily life, and I'm no different.
Scottish independence isn't chiefly motivated by republicanism, but it is an undercurrent. Without the Queen as a unifying force, the movement will likely get stronger.
Through all the years of her reign, the Queen, like so many generations of our family before her, found in the hills of this land and in the hearts of its people a haven and a home.
Do you think Scotland's opinion of the monarchy will change now the Queen has died and Charles has taken the throne?
Well, the position of Scotland with regard to the monarchy has been changing. The monarchy still has majority support in Scotland, but rather less so than in England. That's been going on for the last 30 or 40 years. It's connected with the independence question. On the other hand, you have to separate the position of the monarch from the institution of monarchy, and the late Queen was much more popular than the institution itself, so we'll have to see how the new king fares.
Do you think the King can unify the country in the same way that the Queen did? Because it's quite fractured, isn't it, the UK?
It is, yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not frankly sure he's capable of doing that. I hope he is. I'd like to see him do that. But time will tell, if he can pull it together.
When the announcement came that the Queen had died, I was at the football. There was half-time at the Hearts game. It was really interesting. So we had a minute's silence that was spoiled by some people anti-monarchy and some people that were trying to sing the national anthem, and they were booed down. So I think, I think it's a real interesting time that we're in.
the Scottish people are the first to say goodbye to the Queen and to meet King Charles close up. Queen Elizabeth famously said that life was full of first meetings and final goodbyes. Her coffin departs Edinburgh in an RAF C-17 for the last time. In Northern Ireland, the King touches down to mark his mother's passing. Here, feelings towards the monarchy are the most polarised of anywhere. But this week, the country's fraught politics take a back seat. In the loyalist Shankill area of Belfast, solemn crowds gather to pay tribute.
It's quite incredible, the number of flowers and flags and tributes that have been left here. Thank you, Ma'am, your service is done, says that one. What does that say? In memory of the people's queen. Little 10-year-old boy, may flights of angels sing thee to thy rest. And they're still coming.
We've always thought highly of the Queen.
Yeah, amazing.
She was an absolutely amazing person. We'll never get anyone else like her.
You must have been very sad when you heard that she'd passed away.
Very sad. Shed a tear because it came very sudden, because she'd just welcomed a new Prime Minister and bid one farewell. And it was very sad that 2 days later she'd passed. But thankfully she passed peacefully and has left a nice legacy for us, you know, to be remembered by.
A few streets away in the Republican area of Falls Road, response to the Queen's death and the new monarch's visit is more muted.
Do you have any feelings towards the Queen? Do you have any sort of respect for her, given what she achieved in her lifetime?
Well, I have a wee bit of remorse in the sense of it's someone's grandparent. But other than that, no, not really. That's it. Didn't really bring anything to us in this area.
And is that the feeling more widely, do you think?
Around these areas, yeah. Like there's a lot of hard times around here during the Troubles. And obviously all that there wasn't made easier by the royal family. So we're kind of just getting on with our day-to-day life. Nothing's changing.
Well, there's wrong been done and that you have to not say forgive and forget. I don't think you'd ever forget things that has happened, but it's a new day.
A new day which belongs to King Charles. But underlying tensions endure despite the show of unity. Royal supporters, screened and bussed in, cheer his arrival to the royal residence. Inside, he meets the Vice President of Sinn Féin, a growing political force in today's Northern Ireland and its largest party.
Thank you so much for the incredibly kind things that you said about my mother.
Well, she played a great role here in terms of reconciliation and building peace, so it's the end of an era for sure.
Yeah, but to say the least.
A handshake that is evidence of both progress and uncertainty about what lies ahead.
My mother felt deeply, I know, the significance of the role she herself played in bringing together those whom history had separated, and in extending a hand to make possible the healing of long-held hurts. Now, with that shining example before me, and with God's help, I take up my new duties resolved to seek the welfare of all the inhabitants of Northern Ireland.
Northern Ireland is a place where Queen Elizabeth had a very personal influence. Her reign was dotted with symbolic interventions that only she could make.
Those gestures were hugely powerful, just in giving other people in Northern Ireland permission to step away from their historic views, perhaps their very entrenched ideologies, and start to reconcile one with another.
I think if you move forward to where we are now, Michelle O'Neill, who's the Vice President of Sinn Féin and the leader of Sinn Féin in Northern Ireland, making very heartfelt tributes to the Queen and sympathising with the royal family. These are things that, to me, would have been unthinkable 15, 20 years ago. They just wouldn't have happened. So that shows how far we have come. And there is clearly a level of maturity in political discourse in Northern Ireland now and on the island of Ireland that we haven't really seen in decades. And it's very refreshing to me, and it's something that has to be built on now by King Charles.
What role does King Charles have in trying to unify the United Kingdom?
I'm not sure that his role necessarily is to promote unionism, but it is to, I think, show that regardless of what the future holds, there is some kind of certainty and stability at the centre, and I think that that can be a hugely important role.
A crowd gathers outside St Anne's Cathedral, captivated by the ceremony inside.
The service has been lovely, you know. I feel like, you know, seeing all those Presbyterian, Church of Ireland, different ministers from across different Christian backgrounds is so important, especially in Northern Ireland. And it's lovely to see the unity across the political spectrum, even those who are opponents to the monarchy paying their respect for the Queen.
First of all, I would like to pay tribute to the work that Our late Majesty has done for peace and reconciliation on this island of Ireland and between our two islands. In fact, I think she should be proclaimed Regina Pacis, Queen of Peace, for what she has done. I'm quite sure that King Charles will follow in the footsteps of his mother.
In time, we'll see how much King Charles deviates from the Queen's path. But for now, his duty is to deliver his mother over to her people. Queen has arrived at her official home for the last time. Tomorrow, her coffin will be handed over to Lion State. It will be a day of pageantry and ceremony that has not been seen in a lifetime. Thousands of people have filled the streets of the capital to see the Queen's coffin, an opportunity to see history unfold before their eyes.
Well, this is incredible. The number of people here is unbelievable. I was here during the Platinum Jubilee and the atmosphere is so different. It's, I wouldn't say it's sombre or sad, but it's very quiet, and I think people are being genuinely respectful. Members of the armed forces here, people who look like they've come from work. People of all ages, actually, youngsters as well.
On the journey from Balmoral, when you had the horse riders standing in fields connected and then the tractor drivers, so everybody from every walk of life has lined the route somewhere. And it is a very sad day, but Charles is the man to take it forward, and I'm sure he will.
There's not a single person in America, not a politician, not a notable, that I'd have waited in the rain for hours to watch go by. So the fact that I'm an American in the street, in the rain, waiting for your Queen to go by was, we don't have anything like this. I mean, it's a connection to history that you have that we really don't. And, you know, I mean, right now we're struggling with our politics and we don't have anything above it.
Well, she's such a historical figure, a lady who's done the duty for such a long time. I follow England around the world football, and we always sing the national anthem, and it becomes quite infectious. And so it's a nice way of paying respects. Seeing Charles, I think he's got an epically challenging job on his hands, but he's well prepared. I think he'll be a great king.
The lives and reigns of kings and queens form an arc through Britain's past. And at times like this, it's like a page is turning, one era ending and another just beginning.
It's a really sad day, but I'm so privileged to be here.
Everyone's been incredibly respectful, haven't they?
Yes.
So quiet.
Absolutely. Yes. That was, I'm really glad about that. She deserved to have that respect. And, yeah, it was remarkably quiet, wasn't it?
That was quite something, wasn't it?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, we all came here. I don't know these people, but we all came together today, all from different parts of the country. Had a little chat beforehand, and then a wave of silence came towards us, and it was just a calm, and it was a beautiful moment. The sun came out. Look at the sun now, and just shone down, and it was just so emotional. We all had a little tear and a little hold of hands. It was a lovely, lovely thing to witness. I'm so glad I came.
I'm from Uganda myself, and it's good for me to be here as a black person as well, just to say appreciate the love, the kindness she's brought to the Commonwealth, and basically show my children, you know, let them be part of the history around here.
I think it was really beautiful, like how much respect everyone pays attention to the Queen and stuff, and I think that the Queen was a really good leader to the whole country, and made people feel more happy and stuff about it. But now that she sadly died, it's really upsetting and upsetting everyone, but she's in a safe place now.
The Queen arrives in the Palace of Westminster, leaving a wake of emotions. Here she stays for 5 days and nights, lying in state, every minute kept company by a constant stream of people from different places, generations and cultures. For the new king, his journey around the country has only just begun.
What do you think of King Charles? What do you make of him? Can he carry on the Queen's work?
He definitely can. He's been brought up that way and he's got the same morals as the Queen. So hopefully, yes.
Big shoes to fill, though.
Very big shoes to fill, innit? It's the Queen. Nobody else could walk in our steps.
He has a lot of support in these crowds, but the challenge he faces is clear. No one can succeed the Queen in the imagination of the British public. For some people who've descended on London, this isn't about the history and the pageantry, it's far more personal.
You decided to do this rather than see the procession?
Yes, I think we felt we needed to decide to do one thing or the other, because I think if you did the procession and then joined the queue, you would be here for days, really.
I think we've lost an enormous figure in our lives and in our country, and it will take a very long time to come to terms with that. But we already know there's been a seamless handover. We still have a monarch.
I think it's important for the UK, possibly some parts of the world, maybe the whole world, you know, momentous occasion.
Talk me through how you're feeling. What sort of emotions have you got? What's going through your head?
Got all the tissues ready? Like any funeral, pay respects.
You think you might shed a tear?
I am.
You are already?
I am.
She's a magnificent woman, of course, and I loved her since I know. She was my mama and papa's first head of the state. They are in Sri Lanka, and she was head of the state in Ceylon back in the days, since 1952 to 72. So this for my mom and dad, so I'm doing for them.
And this is